jungle.
Good day. This is Doc with Doc's Adventures in Africa. Thank you for joining us again. Today I'm still back in Iowa and working in the ministry, trying to raise some funds to feed kids in Africa and all the things that I enjoy when I'm back in the United States. And today we have with us Kevin Glesener. He's been a friend of mine for many years, probably as many as 20 years. We've worked together on a lot of things. He's been to Africa a number of times, and we're going to have him join us in a few minutes just to share some of the things he remembers about his multiple trips in Africa. But thank you for joining us. The podcast is really coming along well. We have many people that are viewing now, and if you have feedback for us, please send that to us. We want to make sure that we're bringing you sessions that are of interest to our audience. Kevin, would you go ahead and introduce yourself to our audience?
Yeah, glad to, Jim. Thank you. I'm Kevin Glesener. I'm the lead chaplain at Vermeer Corporation in Pella, Iowa. I've been the chaplain here for 18 years. I was the first chaplain hired, and we've now have 8 chaplains in 4 states. Proud father of 3 and grandfather of 5, and have made 4 trips to South Africa. So feel like I'm pretty experienced, I guess. And led trips. Bob and Lois Vermeer scholarshiped 2 different teams. And I was able to lead those teams when they came to South Africa, and give some of our team members that opportunity.
I love having you as a team leader, Kevin. The spiritual experience that people have when they come on a mission team in a country like South Africa is really a rich experience, but it's different with different teams. And I love the way that you do it, your background as a pastor, and getting everybody involved in just what the Lord is doing in their lives when they're in Africa. And if you have any things that you remember about transformations you saw in some of the Americans that you brought over, one of the things my wife and I love is to sit around the African campfire and listen to what God is doing in people's hearts while they're in Africa, because everybody that comes has a closer encounter with God when they get on a foreign mission field and they start helping these beautiful children. And does anything come to your mind as you remember watching some of the people you've recruited and just seeing what happens in their lives?
Well, the one that maybe stands out the most is a gal asked me to do her baptism in South Africa.
Yes.
And at that pool at the Shikaru Lodge.
Yes.
And she has quite a story. Probably can't or shouldn't go into all of it, but that was very transformational and memorable for her in her spiritual journey. I've seen her as I was her chaplain at Vermeer when I first started, and she was, at best kind of had New Age kind of beliefs and background, and over a period of years, developed a relationship, and then she was interested in attending church, referred to her church, but she had a deep interest in wanting to go to South Africa, and provided that opportunity, helped her get some financing together, and so that was a very transformational experience for her, because I've seen her from just very amorphous kind of beliefs, and no real kind of biblical foundation, to, attending church and getting baptized and kind of continuing on her journey. She's no longer with Vermeer. She's gone to another company, but, that was exciting. That was kind of a high point, to be part of her baptism and, and watch the change in her life. And I just saw her actually, over the weekend, ran into her, and she still wants to come back and was talking about coming back, and still talks about the impact of the trip. So I was telling her, like, well, Doc is always glad to talk to you about that, doing another trip. So,
Absolutely.
yeah. So that trip has been, gosh, was that 6 years ago or something like that? So,
Yeah.
it's been a while, and she's still talking about it.
Yeah, people that go on a mission trip, they always think they're going on this foreign mission trip to help people in a foreign country. And I see such growth in the people that take the mission trips that they don't really expect if it's especially if it's their first time over. But a lot of things we want to talk about in the podcast is things that our viewers enjoy hearing. And I remember kind of an exciting encounter you had with a rock monitor on one of our trips. Do you remember that, Kevin?
Yeah, I'll never forget that. It was kind of a highlight for me because, when I was a boy, I wanted to be a herpetologist. So I grew up catching snakes and turtles and lizards and things like that. And so, yeah, when we went to that lodge and they found that rock monitor, and a couple of guys were chasing it around, trying to figure out how to catch it and stuff. And they kind of got it cornered behind the refrigerator. I just reached. I mean, I've handled all kinds of reptiles, and so I kind of knew a little bit about a monitor and how they react and everything. So you kind of know when you have the advantage and not get bit, and so I just reached around and just reached. They were kind of afraid to mess with it, and I just reached around, grabbed its tail, and picked it up, and took it outside. So that was really kind of a highlight for me. Probably some of your listeners will be glad to hear this, but it was one of my disappointments was I never saw a snake when we were there.
Yeah.
I never saw any snakes, and so. But that was pretty cool too, to see the monitor. And then on the safari we did see that crocodile that was sitting on the nest of eggs. Too. So that was another, but they wouldn't let me go very close to it.
You don't want to grab the tail of the crocodile. In fact, I think some of our listeners might not even know what a rock monitor is, but for me, it looks like a small crocodile. And the one you grabbed the tail of was about a meter long. I don't want to exaggerate, but it was a pretty good sized one.
Yeah. And that picture sits proudly in our South Africa display at our home. So I see it about
That's great.
But that reminds me too that I think it was our second trip there. My dad was a naturalist and conservationist, and so we would memorize the names of animals and identify animals like from when I was a child and growing up. And that second trip especially left quite an impression because we saw such a wide variety of animals. So that wasn't equaled either before or since in the subsequent trips, but
share with us what you saw.
Well, there was just so many. At that time on the game farm, there was quite a few, but we saw mongoose. We saw, of course, the monkeys. A lot of those things are pretty common, but I just remember when we stayed at the bass camp, and we had the four-wheeler. We were driving it around, and Teresa and I came around the corner, and there was a giraffe and a baby, and it was just like stunning. Like I didn't even know they had giraffes on the game farm. And so it was such a surprise to see not only draft, but the baby, and
Yeah.
so that was just exciting. And then just all the different kinds of antelope, and
Mm.
there's just so many varieties of animals. It was just incredible. So I was kind of in heaven a little bit to be able to see a lot of those animals in their natural setting, and I just felt like it was this kind of it was something my dad just would have loved to have seen, and I just, it was kind of honor. It was just special to me knowing how much that would have meant to my dad, and at least I got to see that,
Yeah.
because he would even know the Latin names of animals and trees and everything. I mean, he had quite a memory, and so that was really special to see so many varieties of animals. I can't even name them all. It's just there were so
Yeah.
many.
It's
Not, and it wasn't just the safari, but I mean, it was just the game farm there too, and we'd come across things that I used to dream about seeing in the wild.
yeah,
Except no snakes. No snakes. And just like
it's it's virtually right in the backyard of where our campus is and our lodge is. And we actually have two giraffes that are on the estate side now. So our guests can take walks on a 160-acre farm, and they'll get to see the giraffe and kudus and wildebeest and just all kinds of African game. So that side of things is really enjoyable. I'm excited to get you back to South Africa and show you the new Methodist church that we just built. You visited Johannes Church at the boarding school, and we built them a new church. And we built it about 2 months ago, and it's already filled to capacity. We built it for 450 people, and there are about 350 youth come every Friday night and Sunday morning. And you know a lot about churches. If you have a 450 seat church and you have 350 people in it, it's full. And it's just so exciting to see those kids dancing and singing and praising the Lord. And there's a little revival going on there, because on Friday nights, when the service ends, they just continue to sit in the pews and interact with each other. And I literally think they would stay all night if we'd leave the lights on and keep the music going. So there's really a movement of the Holy Spirit, and you're going to get to experience that the next time you come back. But do you have any memory of Johanni, or you got to preach in some of these churches, and you probably got to preach at the schools?
You sparked a couple of memories too. Just remember one of our premier team members. He's a tall guy, Bruce, and he's a plant man. He was a plant manager. Now he's even promoted higher. He's an operations manager over several plants and stuff. And he wasn't really a kiddie guy, a kid guy. And I just remember the kids crawling all over him.
Yeah.
And, he's great big. I mean, he's like 6'4", 250, 60 pounds, big guy. He had all them kids crawling on him and stuff. And that was a special memory to him. And then he did some welding too at the school, him and his wife, that, he's, pretty experienced at too.
I remember he was teaching the kids welding.
Yeah. And so, that left quite an impression on Bruce too. And then, the teams from Vermeer they did some big game hunting, and they were so concerned, more so about providing meat for the kids through that experience than they were about what they bagged,
Yeah.
So they wanted to take animals that would provide more meat for the kids. That was a major concern to them, which I thought was neat. They had that experience of big game hunting but they were concerned about providing food for the kids, and that was a major concern for them. So
Yeah,
I
I'm
thought
happy you
Bruce
brought
was a
that.
yeah, Bruce was a
I'm
big
happy you
hunter.
brought that up. We have a program we call Hunt Against Hunger, and hunters come over, and everything they shoot provides meat for our kids. And we got like 37,000 pounds of red meat one year, the year before COVID.
Wow.
And then we had a little crash for 2 or 3 years with COVID. There weren't hunters coming. And that's coming back again. And it is fun to watch the hunters. They'll ask the professional hunter, well, how much money does that cost, and how many kids will that feed? And they really enjoy providing meat for our African children. And not only do they get to provide the meat, this company that we use, the Hunting Safari Farm, they'll actually butcher the meat and get it ready so that the hunter gets to actually take their meat to the Del Kramer Center and deliver it. So they get to see the end result of what they're doing. And it's been good because there's a lot of people in our culture that are against hunting, and it's really made it a little more acceptable even to some of those folks that, this is harvesting meat and feeding kids and letting people have some fun while they do it.
Yeah,
We have another
yeah,
experience now for golfers. We live on a beautiful golf course. And so if people want to come over and golf, there's some really fun things that they can do with that too.
Jim, you
Anything else?
mentioned the
Go
yeah,
ahead.
you mentioned the worship service. So going back to Bruce again, 6'4". So I told the team, now, you know, um, don't be afraid to try things. Don't be afraid to just jump in, try some stuff, and take part in the culture and all that. And so at the first worship service, um, the pastor had invited people to come up and dance. So everybody in our team, including Bruce, 6'4" Bruce, who can't dance a lick, I mean, got up and danced. I mean, they just got up and experienced, and then, but I don't dance. It's like it's not my thing. So I was the one sat back in the chair, which I kind of regret now. But they never let me forget that. Like, oh, you said to get up and just try and And I was the only one that stepped back and I didn't dance. But anyway, it was fun watching them because they had a blast doing that. You also invited me to come preach. I think I preached at every church. And all the schools with all the kids, and some of those you didn't tell me about. Like you didn't tell me like to the last minute, like, oh, Kevin, you're, by the way. And which I'm an introvert, so I like to have everything like planned out ahead of time. Know what I'm going to say. In fact, I write out my sermons and stuff. So that was really hard for me. But and I just remember going, I can't remember where it was, but I was literally writing the sermon in my head, as we were driving either to the church or to the school. And but it was interesting, like the way the Holy Spirit provided, and I'm an experiential, I got to have visual aid kind of person. I'm not a scholar and intellectual, but I mean, I had fun. I hope the kids and the folks in the audience, appreciated that too. But I just tried different things, but I went with what I thought the Spirit, and just like my personality and my style is, I think I borrowed a cloak from someone in the audience. I borrowed your walking stick and, talked about, oh gosh, I can't even remember now. Like, but it was like a dramatized, sermon, but it was totally off the cuff. I mean, which is totally not like me. Like I'm like, that's not my style at all, but
Well,
it was fun.
I promise you, the kids appreciated it and loved it. They always love it when Americans come and just share with them, and so I really thank you for doing that. You guys, you and your wife have been amazing at being an encourager and supporter of Pastor Johanni's wife, Isabel, and
Oh, yeah.
she runs an amazing support group for girls. And maybe you could say a little bit about what you and Teresa have been doing to help Isabel. I know it's been amazing what you've contributed to improving what Isabel's able to do.
Well, we've just been probably most of all just a listening ear. Um, and we both we would schedule kind of regular times together. Uh, my wife Teresa would always be with me, and she would provide the feminine perspective, you know, and mine was more the pastoral. Um, and I think just the ministry can be a kind of a lonely place sometimes.
Hmm.
And, for her to feel like she had a safe, confidential space to talk and say whatever she needed to and talk about whatever she wanted to, I felt like was very cathartic for her and very helpful. And especially having Teresa's point of view. My wife's a very wise person. And plus she's a pastor's wife too, so she knows what that's like
Hmm.
as well. So, I think that was very helpful to Isabel, to be able to have that outlet and a good place to talk, um, and I think the culture doesn't necessarily lend itself to that either. The culture that she's living in,
Yeah.
especially as a pastor too, like it's hard to be very vulnerable with people in that culture, is what I understood from her. And you have to be the strong one, um, which is different in America. We just lay it all out, um,
And
but
she
that
she
was
really
helpful too.
is like a parent for those kids in that school, because the children there, they may live there the whole semester and have very little interaction with their own parents. So Johanny, our pastor, and his wife Isabella, they're really the mentors and the pastors for these kids, and it's amazing the work they're doing. And they would get involved in some pretty sticky counseling issues, and they always appreciate someone with your professional experience and ability just to back them up. I think you'll be excited to learn that we're starting a new program of Celebrate Recovery at that school now. And Isabel will be the leader, and she's getting some of the students trained up to be support staff. And so it's really grown, and you've been a big part of helping us with that. So it's really, I appreciate you, and I know you'll enjoy seeing it when you're able to get back over there.
Yeah, that's Celebrate Recovery. That was pretty impressive. The number of kids that came to that after school,
Hmm.
and I was even had part in that too, and meeting with some of those kids after the meeting as well. Um, Going through some pretty traumatic stuff. It's just unbelievable sometimes the trauma that those kids have experienced. Um, and for them to have a place to maybe bring some healing, to be seen, heard, and known, I think is so important.
Yeah, life is hard in Africa, and those kids are just pretty much on their own. And they really appreciate a program like Celebrate Recovery, where they can learn to help each other deal with some of the issues that they don't get help from parents, like children in America typically would do. Our Celebrate Recovery program has grown to be one of the large, in fact, it is the largest one in the world for high school youth. We're now over 200 youth that come in 4 different sites. And so amazing good things are happening with our team over there. So appreciate your involvement with that. The last thing I'd like to get into is you're very interested in snakes, and most of the people that come over, they don't want to see snakes. And typically, it's rare for us to see snakes, but the last 3 months when Beth and I were there, for some reason, they were just out and about, and we would see snakes 2 or 3 times a week. And we do a lot of bike riding in Africa, and we would ride through a field that's with grass that's about a meter or a yard high. And we'd ride through a trail that's basically the golf cart trail that was paved, but they hadn't mowed the golf course yet. And so the snakes would be out on the trail, and you would come up on them very suddenly because you come around a curve, and we saw a couple of black mambas close, and just a very frightening experience to me. I think you probably would have enjoyed it. I actually
Well,
ran over
the black mamba it would be, to a herpetologist, that would be like seeing a great white shark. Like that
yeah.
would be like one of the ultimates, to see something like that.
Well, we have way too many of them. I actually ran over a python that was it was about a meter long. And I had a little trouble with my cataracts, and Beth was riding behind me. And I ran right over this thing, didn't even see it. And she just squealed like a girl. She was behind me, and she got stopped. And the python just kind of laid there for a few minutes. She thought I maybe had killed it, but then it just raised up and slithered off like nothing had happened. But it's been kind of an interesting season over there. I think maybe it was because of all the rains we'd had or something, but they were really out and about, and I didn't appreciate it. But it didn't stop me from riding. I was just as
Yeah,
careful as I could be.
yeah, yeah. That's good.
Well, when are you coming back, Kevin?
Yeah, we'll have to see about that. I'm not sure. It'd be fun to bring another group back from Vermeer if Lois
Mhm.
is willing to help scholars. That always helps if there are scholarships available and stuff. And it's been a good experience for our team members. They still talk about it. So I hope that'll happen. Then our church, there's been some interest there. I like to say that there's 2 that are going. I think they sent in their deposit already too. So
Mhm.
one other that was interested, but I think their experience might encourage others to go
Sure.
eventually. And then we've had discussions about maybe the church just putting together a team, down the
Mhm.
road, and
Absolutely.
just specific to our Global Methodist Church in Oskaloosa. So that there's been talk about that.
Yeah. Well, let me put in a good plug for Vermeer. I'm so impressed with that company. Bob Vermeer, who passed away a year or so ago, was a great friend of mine. I just love Bob and his wife Lois, and they've both been over to Africa a number of times. Bob a couple times more than Lois, but they really loved what's happening in South Africa. And I remember Bob just really enjoyed spending time with our son Dustin. We got a great picture of him flying with Dustin and all kinds of things. Bob was really an adventure person, and they've been so supportive of our work in Africa. Actually, we put in a grant for the foundation a year or so ago, and we got a nice grant from the foundation at Vermeer. And with that, we were able to purchase one of the Vermeer round balers. And it's an amazing machine. And our white South African farmers, they come and they look at that thing, and they really hadn't seen anything of that quality. And it's just putting our farm operation up to the next level. We're able to do contract baling and bring in some money to support the farm, because our farm was really too small to have a baler of that quality. But at the end of the day, with getting involved with contract baling, it's a big plus, and it's just really fun to work with a company like Vermeer. And I just so miss having Bob come over every year or two. But I know his wife Lois is still interested, and hopefully she'll keep encouraging people that are friends of hers and friends of Vermeer to come and experience what's happening. I know Bob's interest was to really just see spiritual growth in his employees and people at Vermeer, and he loves the people that were working for him, and just a great time with a great man. So
We miss
you're
Bob a
working
lot. Yeah.
you're working for a wonderful company. You are blessed.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Real heart for people.
Well, thank you for joining us today, and hopefully we'll see you back in Africa very soon. Appreciate you, Kevin.